The Memorial Bridge, linking Springfield and West Springfield, built in 1922. Called the Memorial Bridge because those towers that you see rising above it, with lanterns on their tops, each have a memorial to the sons and daughters of the city of Springfield who fought in the various conflicts of American history. What we're going to do is check out those monuments in this episode of Fishing Historic Places. We're making a video where we're going to check out a bridge that was built between Springfield and West Springfield back in 1922 to replace a covered bridge that used to span the river right here. And this bridge, known as the Memorial Bridge, is covered with memorials to Springfield's fighting men over its 350-year history. Let's go out there and check it out. Come on and join me. When this bridge was built, there was a lot of pedestrian traffic between Springfield and West Springfield. It's really the same urban node. Today, not so much pedestrian traffic passes across this sidewalk. But once upon a time, there was more. And this is a bridge that was built when a piece of architecture, like a bridge, was something you really showed off. And I shouldn't say that it's not true anymore. I mean, when they build bridges today, they still like to make them architectural showpieces. But we can see a 1920 style architecture with the pillars pushing themselves skyward, kind of stylized ionic pillars. There used to be a line of lampposts like the ones on the other side of the bridge that I remember were lit. When this was built, people traveled to the center of Springfield because it was the only area mall. During the holiday season, you did your shopping over here. I remember spending the Christmas holidays window shopping in the center of Springfield. But economic changes, the deterioration of the city, the building of large malls, like the one you can barely see up there, the Holyoke Mall, led to the city to fall on hard times. But the bridge remembers when it was a bit of a showpiece. Third largest city in Massachusetts. When it was built, Springfield was the second largest city in Massachusetts. And here is our first memorial at the base of this pillar. And you'll notice this is a memorial, and I'll read it. Memorial of William Pension, who in 1636 led the first company of settlers to this river in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, and of his son John Pension, soldier, magistrate, and citizen, who after his father's return to England 16 years later, was for half a century the important man of a region ever widening. In remembrance of the settlers, strong men and women who endured the appalling loneliness of the wilderness, hardship was ever their lot. In home, field, and meeting house, the gun was near and ceaseless guard against Indian attack. Constant was the vigil kept during the 6 Indian Wars, extending over nearly a century, which ravaged the New England colonies from the outbreak of King Philip's War in 1675, when Springfield was burned, until the Peace of Paris in 1763. We honor those whose heroic fortitude cleared the path for the generations to come under a rampant eagle. So here's the first monument to the Colonial Wars. Let's go and investigate the second monument. But here I think it might be a good spot to take a look at one of the problems that Springfield had. It was split by this mighty river. And the river here is 350 yards wide. And Springfield, when it was established, was a pretty good sized grant of land, including the west side of the river, from Holyoke way up at the base of the mountains that you see, all the way down around the corner Beyond the mountain there, which isn't really a mountain at all, it's Springfield's trash pile covered with grass. Agawam, West Springfield, and Holyoke were part of the original Springfield settlement. And by law, remember, this was a time when we didn't have religious freedom, people had to cross the river every Sunday to go to church. And right over where you see the campanile there, that pointy tower, is the first church. People had to cross the river, go over to that first church every Sunday. And they also had to do it for the annual town meeting, which would take place in the month of April. So this river was a problem. And ultimately, a tragedy would lead the western part of the city to break away from the eastern part. And that was finished right around the time of the Revolution in 1774. So behind me, we checked out the first memorial, and it was to our Colonial Wars. I would imagine that the monument in front of us will be to the men who fight in the American Revolution. Now, I'm not certain of that, but chronologically, it would make sense. So let's check it out. The period of the Revolutionary War dedicated to the patriots who created the nation we inherit. Heroes faced by colonists and their descendants schooled in self-reliance, men to assert the right of self-government. Still, their Declaration of Independence is for the healing of nations. From the call for Minutemen on April 19, 1775 to the surrender of the British at Yorktown 8 years later, men and women of this region risked all for civil liberty during those bitter years. The leaders of the community shared in council and battle upon committees of safety and in command of troops. With scant exceptions, the list of citizens was the roll of patriots. Highest rank was attained by General William Shepherd of Westfield, about 7 miles distant. 4 years later, as Major General of Militia, he spent a year subduing the armed forces of Shays' Rebellion and upholding the constitutional government. We didn't have a constitution yet. That came after Shays' Rebellion. Anyway, the attack on the United States Arsenal in Springfield, just at the top of the hill that you can see between the valley created by the buildings there, between the Sheraton and the Marriott, there's a hill. And that's where the armory or arsenal was. The attack on the United States Arsenal in Springfield was frustrated January 25th, 1787, and the malcontent movement waned. I kind of consider myself still a part of that malcontent movement. Anyways, out of disorder, met with patient adequacy, the fathers brought upon the reign of law to adorn the triumph of their arms. The United States Constitution doesn't directly state it. They like to downplay Shays' Rebellion in those days. I think we should kind of make more of a deal out of it than we do. As I stand on the bridge, under the arms of the city, where the critical battle of Shays' Rebellion, where they tried to take the arsenal and arm their soldiery so that they could take on the Bay State, Massachusett, ruled by insurance and banking interests that were thwarting the liberties of the people of Western Massachusetts. Wow! Things that are tough to do at drive time. I'm crossing the bridge to investigate the monuments over here. Rarely done. So we have a monument here that is dedicated to the veterans of later wars on foreign soil. We've got in memory of the patriotic men of Hampden County who enlisted in the war with Spain that freed Cuba and all who had part on sea or land in the nation's effort to serve humanity in lands near or remote. In remembrance of the loyal men and women who contributed in life, service, and money to Hampden County's part in the World War. This was put up, this bridge, in 1922, I think, so the second one hadn't happened. As soldiers, sailors, nurses, workers, they labored with ardent devotion for the salvation of free government. In honor of the 104th Regiment that won highest military distinction, on the battle line in France, where its colors were the first to be decorated. Outgrowth of the old 2nd Massachusetts Regiment honored the Spanish-American War on the Mexican border. This organization of national fame was true to its fine tradition. From the pioneers down through the World War, love of freedom linked the generations. Hampden County. Now, Springfield, Massachusetts is nestled in Hampden County, which extends from maybe 20 miles east to 20 miles west of the river here. Hampden County to the north, bordering Hampshire, and then Franklin County, Massachusetts, settled in 1635, originally on the west side of the river, and then when the natives complained about livestock getting into the corn, the settlement was moved from there over to that white church steeple, the first church. So we've got 3 of the 4 monuments under our belts, and we got one more to check out. This monument, I don't know what's on this monument. Is this the Civil War? It's gotta be. Gotta be the Civil War. I'm a local celebrity. Anyways, right here on this monument, what do we got? The War of the Great Rebellion, the War to Preserve the Union, commemorating or commemorative of the part Hampden County had in winning the Civil War, 1861 to 65. Got to look both ways now. Those kids on e-bikes come whipping up. Which strengthened the foundations and kept inviolate the integrity of the nation, true faith and allegiance her soldiers bore, as did men in town meetings, women in helpful work serving the government. In the 10th, 27th, 31st, 34th, 37th, 46th, 52nd, and 57th regiments, men of this county were officers and privates, and in other organizations of Army and Navy served honorably. Freighted with pain were the years from Sumter to Appomattox, and leaden-footed war turns its saddest face on civil conflict. The terrible travail of the nation's new birth of freedom great Lincoln saw. Tears came with peace when the emancipator was murdered and the ages claimed him. Slow was the resurrection of good feeling between the sections which Grant invited in the terms of the surrender and longed for in his last hours on Mount McGregor. But reconciliation grew with the years until the full flowering of the ancient fellowship was reached when men of North and South fought side by side in Cuba and in later years were comrades in service across the seas. Quaint grows the Union uniform seen on memorials that dot the village greens, but immortal is the spirit of those who wore it. So this monument, a monument to the American Civil War, is generally walked by pedestrians with nary a second look. However, these monuments are pretty powerful when you consider that they adorn this bridge. And the first bridge that went over this river was completed in 1804. Lewis and Clark were out in the mountains when this was bridged for the first time. And I've done a little research, and only the Hudson had been bridged at that point, meaning a significant river bridge. And where the Hudson was bridged, the river was much, much less wide. So this was really the first significant bridging site on the East Coast and a mark of American improvement and progress. I hope you've enjoyed our little look as we watch the railroad bridge up there. Uh-oh, former student here. Yes. How you doing? You got me, what do you get me, a frappe? A frappe? He got me a frappe. We're on Feast of Historic Places. We're checking out the monuments here for our upcoming video. Do I have your permission to air the video, you and I, together? He is a thespian, which means he's an actor for people that live in Chicken, Mass. You're auditioning for what? Very cool. you don't know if you're going to get it, but what you do is you give it your best. You know what I mean? You give it a shot, and if it happens, it happens. It's in the stars, right? And sooner or later, if you work hard, it's going to happen. From a Memorial Bridge with a former student. Yeah. Yes. All right. We've explored the Memorial Bridge. I've been meaning to do this for a while. I waited till the end of October for whatever reason. But, hey, it's kind of worth a little walk. I mean, it's not the easiest thing. I would recommend doing it in the morning, maybe in the summer, on a holiday. And there's a lot of automobiles. But hey, you got a view of the river, the Basketball Hall of Fame over there, the city of Holmes, Springfield, Massachusetts, gleaming like a pearl. Look at it, they got a casino now, MGM. I remember when Wellfleet, which was called the Bay State West, was the largest building in the city, and I remember before it was built when the Campanile was the biggest. The skyline has changed, the city has grown, and hopefully they're going to see better days.
In peace may you wave. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats true under red, white, and blue, where there's never a boast or brag. But should old acquaintance be forgot, keep your eye on the grand old flag. Every heart beats true under red, white, and blue, where there's never a boast or brag. But should old acquaintance be forgot, keep your eye on